Welcome to the Blue Button Broadcast. I'm David Wickert, President and Managing Owner, where my individual NMLS ID is 328847, joined today by one Tim Holdmann, Senior Loan Consultant, and his NMLS ID, I have no idea because I still don't have it memorized, is what, Tim?
593146.
Fantastic. Okay, Tim, I'm coming in hot today with, and I know I'm biased, but
It's
here
a
is
hot
my
take. Hot
it's
take
my
for sure.
hot take for sure. White hot. Coal, like in the fire, like when the fire has died down, but there's just like that ember right at the end of the fire. You have a fireplace in your house. You know what I'm talking about.
Two of
Okay,
them. Come on.
so I have two metaphors. A cash offer. I think I want to talk about both, but I guess we got to start with one.
Two scenarios.
Well, it's the same scenario. A cash offer is like dating someone who's way, way, way more attractive than you. Or a cash offer is like playing poker. Which one do you want to start with? The attractive.
I like poker. Let's go with that one.
Okay. So, and I should say, I am, of course, biased. Like, we would like to lend money to people in order to buy a house. Duh. But at the same time, I think we take a long-term view about how we help our clients, that maybe they don't need a mortgage right now, but we would like to just be in someone's orbit and be a person that helped them achieve the actual thing, which is buy a house, right?
Absolutely. That's the name of the game.
So the metaphor that the cash offer is like poker is the analogy is if you're a seller, you are listing your house for sale, and the pot in the middle of the table, right, is the house. I think work with me on this metaphor. And there's people sitting around the poker table, and one guy makes this amazing offer, a cash offer. Wow, that's a lot of chips. I wonder what cards he's holding. I think so often other buyers just fold then, like, oh man, like I can't compete.
I'm not going to win. Yeah.
Right. He just raised $1,000 at the poker table, and it's a $20, hand. He raised 1,000. It's like, well, I can't compete with that. So there's two elements to this. One, if you're a buyer competing against another guy with a big stack of chips, don't count yourself out, because if I'm a seller, I don't just take that giant raise at first glance. That one of my elements is, if I treat this like, what if I was selling my house?
Okay.
I want to almost like push back or re-raise that person who is making that giant offer on my house, to see, like, are you bluffing? Like, do you have a pair of twos and I just don't know it? To just see if they are as strong as their raise would lead them to believe. Am I torturing this metaphor, or is this resonating with you?
A little. So, I mean, from the seller's perspective, they all want the most certain offer that's going to close, right?
Yes.
And they also want the most amount of money. Those are really the two things that the seller wants. So from the buyer's perspective and their agents, traditionally a cash offer is viewed as the best of both worlds as a way to get your offer accepted, right? Because you're offering, no contingencies. So it's basically certain that you're going to follow through and buy the house.
Yep.
And, maybe you're not offering the best price though, in lieu of that certainty, right?
Right.
So there's a little bit of a give and a take there. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on why maybe not writing a cash offer would be the best for buyers.
Well, this kind of the certainty piece, the certainty to price give and take is an interesting dynamic.
For sure.
Let me just say this. If I got a cash offer on my house, I would do at least, I'm going to say 2.5 things. One, I would counter just to test how serious are you, cash buyer, about
Yeah,
buying my house? Because so let's say someone writes me an offer for my house for $300,000.
sure.
I'm going to do a counter at some, not an insulting level. Let's say, oh, you offered me 300. I'm going to say, how's about 303?
Sure.
Because the reaction to my counter is going to teach me a lot as the seller. There are three ways that I thought of. One, the on my re-raise, again on my poker metaphor, on the re-raise, if the buyer's like, if they have the most childish reaction, like, oh my God, how dare you, up the ante on my cash offer, is like, wow, I'm so glad I learned that now, that you think that you are God's gift to sellers, because maybe then I don't want you to be the person that I sell to, because it's going to be aggravation the rest of the way.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe in my re-raise, option 2 in my re-raise, they give an adult reaction. They say, you know what, we respect your counteroffer, but no, this is the price that we are willing to pay for the house. Great. At least then I know that I've got adults on the other
Well,
side of the table.
and you know that they put their best foot forward on day one. They put forward the strongest offer that they're willing to make, at least in terms of price, right?
Well, is that a bluff? Is that not a bluff? It's like I'm sitting
Yeah,
on ace 10, but I'm not sitting on ace king. Is that the poker? I don't know. I know nothing
that
about poker. Okay.
that works.
Okay. So that was the second. The third, if I, again in my example, they offer 300, I just counter it, 305 or 303. If their response is this, like, thirsty, like, I will do whatever it takes, for you to say yes, it's like, amazing. At least then that I know that is who you are as a buyer, and that I am still in control. I think, to your earlier point, in a little bit, yes, you wrote me a cash offer, but you are ready to do almost whatever it takes to get into this house.
Yeah,
And you're not, I think a cash buyer thinks that they're better than everyone because
sure.
of their suitcase of cash. But if you have the right kind of buyer who is utilizing their cash offer as a tool, because they're not trying to, they're trying to win without without the slaughter rule, like it's baseball. You can learn all of that. Again, if this was me, David, thank you for your offer for $300,000. I'm going to counter you at 303. You're going to learn a lot just by making that counter offer. And that's what to your earlier point, Tim, a seller wants certainty and safety. Well, if you just say yes to the cash offer without kind of like interviewing who the offer is, you have no idea who these people are. You're
Right.
just impressed by it being a cash offer. And I think, so here's another one of my headline: don't be so impressed by a cash offer.
Yeah. Because I would argue that a offer for a higher purchase price, maybe let's say 315 or 320, if you were listing for 3, right?
Yep. Yep.
With no inspection and no appraisal contingency, and maybe just a financing contingency, is probably a stronger offer, right?
And
Because
yeah.
as the buyer, you're saying, I'm still going to buy this house unless I can't get approved for financing for some crazy reason.
Yes.
It still leaves a little bit of protection and it leaves an out for the buyer, but it gives the seller, I'd say, a pretty decent amount of certainty that the purchase is going to go through and at a higher purchase price, which means they walk away with more money at the end of the day.
Here's the other thing. If it was me personally, okay, great. I got this cash offer. In my re-raise, in under the umbrella of my poker metaphor, I would ask them, I want to say I would ask them to quadruple their earnest money deposit.
Yeah.
Maybe I get talked down to like tripling, but some amount. Maybe this is a better fit with the poker metaphor with the re-raise, but it's like, wow, thank you for the offer that is not contingent on financing, a cash offer. Thank you for this earnest money. Show me that you're extra serious. Show me that you are ready to not just propose to me, but you also want to get married, that like you wrote, oh, a $10,000 earnest money, I'd like it to be $35,000. And
Yeah,
if you're a serious cash buyer,
that shouldn't be a problem.
well, exactly. It kind of puts it back in their court. Like, wow, you're as strong as you say you are. Prove it. Prove it
Yeah.
now.
Right. And from the buyer's perspective, if they really do follow through and buy the house, the earnest money amount within reason kind of doesn't matter because it's an advance deposit on what they bring to closing anyways.
Exactly. Earnest, it's just down payment. And if you're a true cash offer, it's 100%
Yeah.
down payment, as Brian likes to say.
And
But
let me say it too, just as food for thought for potential buyers out there. Even if your earnest money amount exceeds the amount that you actually plan to put down, that's still okay. You can get a refund back at closing of your earnest
yes,
money if
yes,
you choose to borrow more, right? Because we work with a lot of buyers where, maybe we prove that they could do 30% down as part of the
yes,
pre-approval because they have the money and that's a sign of strength. But maybe they want to keep money in their back pocket for a remodel or,
yes.
college loans, college tuition for a kid or something. They could still
Improve.
borrow
Yes.
90% of the purchase price, put 10% down. And if their earnest money was so high, they'll get it refunded back at closing. It's not super common, but it's absolutely a possibility for a lot of folks.
So when I said, so one in my re-raise, it'd be like a nominal go from like 300 to like 303 just to
Yeah.
test them. And then the second one, triple, quadruple, quintuple their earnest money just to again test how serious you are. My 2.5 remark, Tim, was going to be like, and by the way, I'd like you to make a $2,000 donation to my charitable, cause of choice. Because
Now,
again,
now you're just torturing the buyer a
well,
little
I
bit.
know, but I'm trying to learn. Like, do you think that you are doing me a favor? Are
Mm,
you a level-headed negotiating partner? Like, I'm trying to learn about you and you as the buyer. This is David as the seller trying to learn about you as the buyer in my counter offer. I don't know anything about you. And
yeah.
as much as I might recognize the Accunet Mortgage rock solid pre-approval that you wrote with your offer, the name of the agent who's got a great reputation, if you, the buyer, are a wild card, I don't know that yet. I'm trying
Right.
to learn that. You just walked through my house yesterday, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
learn, are you going to be tortured to get to the closing table, or are you going to be mature? So that
Right.
was my like,
Yeah.
yeah, I need you to write a $2,000 check to Milwaukee Diaper Mission, and
Mhm.
promise to do so because I'm just trying to learn. Because I think about it in terms of my life. If my wife wanted a house, and I, of course, also wanted the house, and the seller was like, by the way, do this and you get the house, I'd be like, I'm driving the check. I just got in the car. I'm driving the donated check right now to whatever the address is, if that's what it takes to win this
Yeah.
house, which I guess makes me a thirsty buyer. But it's like, that is a low, low, low bar. If the
Well, and to
win
your to
is I
your
get the
point,
house.
it's like from the seller's perspective, if they view a cash offer as almost like, ooh, as the seller, if I take that, like I'm kind of almost giving up control of the transaction to a
Yes.
certain point.
Okay.
These 2.5 tips that you just mentioned are ways to maybe level the playing field a little bit and still maintain power throughout the transaction a little bit because
That's
there
a
are no other contingencies.
So that's a perfect segue, Tim. So my other metaphor was, if I'm a seller, if I get a cash offer, it's like dating someone who is they are an 11 and you are a 5. They are way, way, way prettier than you. And right now the dynamic, I'm going to say in and around Milwaukee, is it is a seller's market. That
For sure.
if you've got a house that's pretty nice, and you price it right, you're going to get a lot of foot traffic, you're going to get a lot of interest, you're probably going to have more than one offer to choose from.
Right.
It feels nice to
Oh
be
yeah.
the seller. Everybody wants me. They're telling me I'm awesome. I'm beautiful. Oh, great. But if you're a very attractive 5, if that even exists, and then a
An
cash
LA
offer
5.
is what's that? An LA 5's like a Milwaukee 8? Is that what the comparison
Yeah,
is? And it
something like that.
adjusts for inflation. So if you are feeling great about yourself as a seller, and then a cash offer 11 comes walking through, man, you feel great, kind of, because wow, this person is interested in me.
Yeah.
Like, wow, they wrote me what number and it's cash. But it's that dynamic of like, you almost don't believe it. You're waiting for your very attractive 11 buyer, 11 out of 10 buyer to like break up with you. Cause you just can't convince yourself like, wow, why would they want me? I'm just a schmuck. And this person, they're with me. And to your earlier point, if you're a seller, it suddenly can feel like you're not in control as much. Because this buyer just walked in and they're like, I'm beautiful, I'm cash, I'm the best. And you as the seller are just like, wow, I never expected anybody like you to ever come through here. I'd be happy to say yes to you. It just doesn't feel good as a seller, I would imagine. Or I would say if it were me, I wouldn't feel particularly. I would want to counter. I would want to be like, wow, I'm
Are
flattered
you
that you
sure?
want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm flattered that you want to be with me. Would that make it almost like a prenup? It's like, I would like to negotiate the terms of our relationship now a little bit
In
more
case we break up. Yeah.
in
Well,
case we break up.
I'd be really curious on, if agents are listening to this podcast, like give us a call or shoot us an email and let us know your
Yes.
thought on this, right? Because I mean, this concept is, I think, counter to the conventional wisdom that's out there right now. And especially if you're an agent doing a lot of listing sides or seller sides, let me know what you and your buyers think when you do get a cash offer. And maybe you have 6 offers, which is pretty, it sounds like a lot, but I think that's pretty common for high demand houses, if not more.
Yep.
If you got 6 offers, one of them's cash. How do you lay out the pros and cons, to your seller? Right. And
Or how do you counter? Do you counter at all? Do you just take
yeah,
a cash offer and just like
yeah,
wow, and then there's no pushback?
right. And then, does that generally, in your opinion, listing agent, does that work out the best for your sellers at the end of the day? Because again, like it's about certainty and about price at the end of the day. And I have seen customers of mine win offers against cash offers where
Oh
maybe
yeah.
something else was more desirable about the offer, right? Either the purchase price or a faster closing. Maybe they had a financing contingency but waived all the other ones, so I'm curious on, like, from a listing agent's perspective, do they view the cash offer as just the slam dunk, you got to choose this one every single time? Or is there nuance to it?
I would say I would almost, the other element too is, and particularly in a Wisconsin contract, if it were David, I would counter and I would strike any ability of the buyer to obtain financing in order to get to the closing table, to make it a true
Yeah.
show up with a suitcase of cash.
I don't
Because
see that. I don't see that very often at
what,
all. Because
well,
I
hey,
suspect a lot of cash offers do obtain financing
which
at
is
the end of the
fine.
day.
If it were me, I'd be like, oh, you want me to say yes to you, cash buyer? Well, I want to bifurcate who I want to bifurcate the timeline of like, you can pay cash to buy my house and then go and recoup your cash after the
Right.
fact.
Well,
On,
or at
on,
least
on
if you don't strike that verbiage in the contract, at least what I think a smart listing agent would do if they receive a cash offer, show me proof that you have the money. Show
Well,
me a
and,
bank
and
statement
that's
with maybe numbers redacted or something, account numbers redacted, but like, because otherwise it's not a cash offer. At least if they obtain financing, at least show me on day one that you truly don't need to, that you have a bank account with
yes.
$305,000 sitting in there ready to rock and roll. That's truly a
And
cash offer.
yeah, it's just this is what I would do because you and I both have seen we have literally helped clients who write a cash offer and then want to obtain financing, which it really depends upon the verbiage of the contract that you're using. I think lots of cash buyers don't really want to use the cash.
No.
And if it was me selling my house, I'd say, if you want me to say yes to you, be as strong as you are showing me
Saying,
that you are
yeah,
saying that you are.
sure.
Because the other
I think
thing, and
moral of the story is don't try to buy David's house, ladies and gentlemen.
no, you know, hey, for the right number, every house is
Oh,
for sale. But
absolutely. For
but
sure.
but but this is I want sellers to be mindful that cash is not necessarily carte
King.
blanche.
Yeah.
It,
Or it's just
it
like seller, sellers are in the driver's seat in this market. How do you want to make sure you stay in the driver's seat once you accept an offer? Right? Because
right.
to your scenario, if you got a lot of foot traffic, a lot of interest, you're definitely in the driver's seat then. Do you want to continue to feel like you're in the driver's seat all the way until you get to the closing table and get the check? So that's kind of why
Well,
we're talking about this.
this is why my metaphor I was thinking as it was bouncing around in my head. It was like, wow, this 11 out of 10 buyer, wrote me a cash offer. Man, you're kind of just hoping and
Yeah.
waiting and praying that like, well, I hope she really does show up at the altar in 30 days. Cause if she doesn't, I had to say no to a lot of other people who also were ready to say yes to me or to propose to me. It's like, could I
Yeah.
have been happy? Could I have been happy with an 8? Yes.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but Tim, this is what we're talking about. It's I think cash buyers also have an expectation of discount
For
that
sure.
maybe a financed buyer doesn't, because they can't show that level of strength.
Yeah. So they got to make
That,
up for it in other ways. Yeah.
well, an 8's got to try harder than an 11. Isn't that what we're learning? Is like, you can't just,
Yeah.
if you're a cash buyer, you can't, you think you can just sit back and be like, well, I'm an 11. So like,
Yeah. You just walk
you
in
have,
there and be like, I want that one. And then they give
right.
it to me because I'm awesome. Yeah.
I mean, the dream is you get a great offer and they work hard or show that, demonstrate. Well, which is why if it were me, I want to learn something about you. If you're an 11, but I hate your guts, like, I don't care that you're an 11, but if you're
Yeah.
an 11 and you are mature and show, yes, I can actually show up to the closing table and with a suitcase full of money, then
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
then that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
It's then it's like, I wish I could sell you 3 houses, not just one, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that producer Sue made note of too, this game that people are playing, at least locally, which is, who is the cash actually coming from? Which is
Right.
my favorite, like, well, I, David, am writing the offer, but let me show you Brian's bank statement. If I was the seller, I'd be like, you are out of your mind if you think that I'm going to take dad's or grandpa's
Yeah.
account as substitute for your cash.
Right. Because what if they decide not to give it to you?
Right. Well, again, in the counter, it'd be like, oh, you'd like to use dad's cash as proof of funds? Great. Add him to the contract, please.
Yep. Yeah.
And
'Cause otherwise,
I'm
what
going
if
to
you have a
re-raise
fight at
you.
Christmas? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What if grandma thinks the house is ugly and isn't willing to pony up for the cash? It's like, oh, well,
Yeah.
That's a problem. Well, and in addition to all the things that I said before, just a small re-raise to learn something about you as a buyer, an increase in your earnest money to prove, like, are you ready to commit? Don't just give me don't be an 11 and give me a ring with no diamond. Give me a ring with a diamond on it, please. Let's
Yeah.
quadruple the cost of this earnest money.
Yeah.
I think I've done an okay job feathering this metaphor without insulting people or getting myself canceled as soon as we put this up on the internet.
I'm
Do you think
thinking
I've
of a
done
lot of
okay?
things that I'm not saying right now to extend the metaphor, but I think we'll just end it now.
No, it's all good. All right. So those were and again, Tim, like I tell this to our clients all the time. I know we are in a compromised position, but ultimately we know nobody actually wants a mortgage. What a buyer wants is the house.
Yep.
And we just have a tool called a mortgage to help you do that. But ultimately, I always feel best when it's funny. I actually, this last week, I was checking in with a client. It's been 6 months since she bought her house. She decided 6 months ago she didn't want a mortgage. She was just going to pay cash. And for her financial situation, I was like, fine. Like, and I get it. Like, what's my counter argument? Like, no, like I won't be able to afford avocados for my son if you don't, finance a small bit of this.
It's the other thing. It's like, I'd say we're even more in the advice business than the mortgage business anyways. So like me and you are never going to advise a client against their best interest just for the sake of making a quick buck.
No,
like that's not what we do.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work long term. Well, and so for her, that was 6 months ago. The reason she moved from the North Shore to West Suburb. Her grandson just turned 3 months.
Nice.
Which I think the bun was in the oven at the time that she was making the move.
It would have been, yeah.
But science, that's just math right there.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point. Like to just check in and be a human. They're like, oh my gosh, congratulations, grandson's 3 months old. I hope that's going great. Like that's the real life thing that we're trying to help our clients do. And we'll figure out how to be in that client's orbit for many years to come. Because guess what? I bet when more grandkids, she's going to be like, I need more space if I need all these, if I am going to host all these grandkids to come over, for a sleepover in 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's just the real life stuff. All right. That is the Blue Button broadcast for today. I'll come up with more metaphors.
Always. I don't doubt it.
Metaphors that walk the fine line where everybody knows exactly what we're talking about, but I won't get canceled. And Tim, I promise I'm going to try to not get you canceled either. I will self-cancel before you cancel. But that's what I got. I am David. That is Tim. We will see you all next time on the Blue Button broadcast. Goodbye for now.